Very warm good evening to all. Today, the first part we are going to discuss is about the anticipatory bail. As the word itself is anticipatory, that means you know in anticipation that you may be arrested under the law. The meaning is that you may be arrested, so you want to take a bail in anticipation of your arrest. The another word used is also apprehending the arrest at the hands of the police. So if you are happen to read, if you are able to read any anticipatory bail, the common words use it is FIR is registered, is likely to be registered. He or she, the accused, apprehending their arrest in the case. That's where they are seeking the anticipatory bail. Now, where will you find under the law? I will ask everybody to take pen and paper if they can write, because sometimes if it is not recorded, it will not be available to you. Under section 438 of CRPC in the law, that is in the criminal procedure code, you will find the anticipatory bail provision. Now, anticipatory bail is always for non-bailable offense. For bailable offense, there is no need to go and take bail before the session court or the high court. In anticipatory bail, only two courts have the power under section 438 of CRPC. That is the session court first, and another is the high court. Both have got concurrent jurisdiction, but you have to approach first the session court, then to the high court. Now, when the question, another question I would like all of you to answer this, if anybody can answer. Trial court does not have the power, that is magistrate court. Session court has the power. If the anticipatory bail is rejected at the I'm sorry, at the high court, then what is the remedy? If anticipatory bail is rejected at the high court, the next remedy is to the Supreme Court by way of special leave petition. You can pray the same thing, that is the bail in anticipation of arrest, but it will be by way of special leave petition. Most of the cases from the high court, when go to the Supreme Court, you have to prefer a special leave petition. This is an additional knowledge you all should have, that anticipatory bail is rejected at the high court. What is the remedy? That is special leave petition. This is the basic knowledge you all should have. And another important thing, for non-bailable offense, you have to ask the anticipatory bail, you have to pray, or you have to seek the anticipatory bail. But for bailable offenses, there is no need, because when we are saying the offense is bailable, you're 100% you're going to get the bail. In bailable offense, it is accused right to get bail. So always remember that anticipatory bail is only when the offenses are non-bailable, the charges are non-bailable, the accused is charged with non-bailable offenses. It may be bailable, non-bailable mix, but when there are both the charges, bailable, non-bailable, so because of the non-bailable, he or she may not get the bail, then he has to apply for anticipatory bail. Now, one very important judgment I want to discuss with you, that is Sushila Agarwal versus NCT of Delhi. I'm sharing it from the net. If you can look at this, Sushila Agarwal versus State, NCT of Delhi. It was delivered on 29 January 2020, Supreme Court of India. There were two questions which were put in this matter. I'm marking this. HDFC Bank Limited versus JJ Mannan 2010, 1 SCC 679, and Satpal Singh versus State of Punjab 2018, 4 SCC. SCC stand for Supreme Court cases 303. The following questions are referred for consideration by a larger bench. Number one, whether the protection granted to a person under section 438 CRPC should be limited to a fixed period so as to enable the person to surrender before the trial court and seek regular bail. Another question that was put before the larger bench was whether the life of an anticipatory bail, this is very important, should end at the time and stage when the accused is summoned by the court. Now we will go to the first question, whether the protection granted to a person under section 438 CRPC should be limited. Now this is what the court, in this judgment, it is said that anticipatory bail once granted, it is not limited for a fixed, unless and until it is specified. Once the anticipatory bail is granted to your accused, whether the high court or the session court, it is compulsorily a permanent anticipatory bail. You need not seek the fresh bail. The another question which they have discussed is whether life or anticipatory bail should end at a time stage when the accused is summoned by the court. Now, when we are using the word summoned, you people are junior, so I will tell you one more thing about this. That whenever you are applying for anticipatory bail, you are granted bail by the court, and when this charge sheet is filed, because of the FIR, you go to the court and take the anticipatory bail. So that means you are not arrested. Once you are not arrested, after the bail is granted, police will complete the investigation and they will file the charge sheet in the court. Now, when they file the charge sheet, कोर्ट समन्स यू, समन्स पुकारता है, आपको बुलाता है, वो आपको समन्स भेजता है या कुछ भी ऐसे मोस्टली आजकल फोन कॉल्स होते हैं पुलिस स्टेशन से, बिकॉज एक्यूज एड्रेस एंड फोन नंबर्स आर गिवन, सेल फोन्स आर अवेलेबल नाउ, so they are summoned by the court. Now in few cases I have seen right now also in one of my Thane court case, the learned magistrate asked to refurnish the bail because the accused lady was on anticipatory bail, but maybe she was not aware about the Sushila Agarwal's case. So if as a lawyer you are aware about the Sushila Agarwal case, you have to tell the court that Sushila Agarwal case by the Supreme Court. See, any judgment by the Supreme Court is the law of land. Supreme Court judgment affect the whole of our country, that is whole of the India, whole of the Bharat. So whatever, whichever courts, all the courts below the Supreme Court are the subordinate courts. So Sushila Agarwal case says that anticipatory bail once granted is a permanent bail. You need not take fresh bail. And even if charge sheet is filed and the when court summons you accused, the charge sheet is filed, now trial will begin. They need not give fresh bail. This is one judgment which is very helpful and is of recent of the year 2020. So latest judgment by the Supreme Court. As a lawyer, you should all know, and according to my feeling, this judgment will go on for a longer time because it is one judgment which is a very 5-bench judgment and decided by a larger bench. So it is going to affect unless until a bigger bench created, more than five judges bench, it is not going to be overruled. So this judgment will be a long time for all of you. So kindly read it. This is one judgment, and when you read this judgment, you will find Guru Baksh Singh's judgment, Sidram Maitra's judgment. So all the anticipatory bail judgments will be there. So all the judgments which were before it are also discussed in this judgment. So when you read a judgment, you will know the 438 CRPC. You will also know that what is anticipatory bail and what are the grounds you can take. So it's one of the good judgment of the recent time. So do read it. Now next we will go to the reading. Bharvi, please unmute yourself.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening.
I am audible, na?
Yes, ji audible ho aap. Okay. Read slowly the way you want.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Shall I start?
Just a minute. You can start from here. Law of abortion.
Yeah. Law of abortion. The Telangana High Court's progressive decision. In a recent judgment, the Telangana High Court touched upon how to balance the rights of a mother vis-a-vis the fetus. Earlier this week, the Telangana High Court delivered a significant judgment dealing with the law of abortion. The court was approached by a 16-year-old minor girl through her guardian seeking a direction for termination of her 26-week-long pregnancy. In a surprisingly pro-choice verdict, the court issued directions to carry out the termination and made some interesting observations on the law of abortion in India. While doing so, it touched upon how to balance the rights of a mother vis-a-vis the fetus. In this post, I discussed the judgment and the key takeaways from it. Before moving to the judgment, a brief overview of the law on abortion in India would be helpful. Article 21 of the Constitution of India, which guarantees the right to life, and liberty to every person has been interpreted by the courts to include the right to reproductive choice. In other words, it affords a woman to the right to decide whether she wants to procreate or not. On the other hand, the article has also been interpreted to include the right to life of an unborn fetus, and therefore the two interests in essence of the mother and the prospective child have to be balanced by the courts. As a result, the right to abortion is not absolute in India and exists only in cases of a possible mental or physical injury within a period of 12 to 24 weeks of pregnancy. The judgment and takeaways. In the said case, the court was approached by a minor girl to abort her 26-week-long pregnancy, which was the result of sexual assault and rape. She had argued that there was a threat to her physical and mental health if she continued with the pregnancy, and she was not in a position to bear the child physically, mentally, and financially. The court allowed her petition and made two key observations. Firstly, the court reiterated that if a pregnancy exceeds 24 weeks, the girl or woman is not out of remedies and can approach the High Court, which may direct termination or pregnancy. In the instant case, the court observed that the compelling the petitioner to continue with the pregnancy caused by rape would violate her rights under Article 21. Secondly, the court stressed on giving primacy to the life of the mother over the life of the fetus in abortion cases. It observed that Article 21 includes a right of a woman to make a choice of pregnancy and terminate it, even in the situations of an unplanned pregnancy. It observed 16. This court is of the opinion that the life of the fetus or the or to be born child cannot be placed at higher pedestal than the life of the petitioner. The dignity, self-respect, healthy living, mental or physical, etc., are the facets of right to life and personal liberty enshrined under Article 21 of the Constitution of India, which also include right of a woman to make a choice of pregnancy and terminate the pregnancy in case where pregnancy is caused by rape or sexual abuse, or for that matter unplanned pregnancy subject to reasonable restrictions under law. These observations are a breath of fresh air, as courts have often taken a conservative approach whenever the rights of a woman vis-a-vis a visible fetus are at play. For instance, the Calcutta High Court in Suparna Debnath and another versus State of West Bengal rejected a woman's petition to terminate her 26-week pregnancy on the grounds that the right of the fetus to live outweighs the mental trauma suffered by the mother. The unborn baby in question had a risk of Down syndrome along with heart, abdomen, and esophagus problems. Shockingly, the Calcutta court neglected the trauma of the mother and her financial position while coming to its conclusion, factors that would have heavily influenced her decision to raise a baby requiring prolonged medical facilities. The mother had specifically pleaded that given her financial status, it would be impossible to nurture a child requiring prolonged medical care. Similarly, in Indulekha Srijit versus Union of India and others, the Kerala High Court rejected a woman's petition to terminate her 31-week pregnancy on the ground that the unborn child has rights under Article 21 the moment it transforms into a fetus. The court went on to observe that the rights of the unborn are at par with a born child. It observed an unborn child has a life of its own and rights of its own, and rights of the unborn are recognized by law. No doubt, only if the unborn child can be treated as a person, the right to life of the unborn child can be equated with the fundamental right of a mother guaranteed under Article 21 of the Constitution. Conclusion: the Telangana High Court sided with the mother's autonomy and reproductive rights and allowed termination even when there was no complication with the fetus. This approach is welcome as it shows priority being accorded to a woman's reproductive autonomy as against the state's interest to protect the unborn. As I have argued previously, the law on abortion in India allows for a legal termination only in limited cases where the woman is either a victim of a rape, a minor, or a married woman through the ground of failed contraception. Even an unmarried woman has no such right, which points to a regressive mindset of our policymakers who give supremacy to the idea of saving the life of the unborn over and above the autonomy of the woman. The regressive mindset of the government was reiterated in its counter affidavit filed before the Supreme Court in Mrs. X and Mrs. Y versus Union of India. In the affidavit, the center argued that a woman's right to reproductive autonomy does not outweigh the state's interest in protecting the life of the fetus. The affidavit reads, it is settled law that personal freedom or choice of an individual cannot curtail the freedom or choice of other individuals, especially the most vulnerable and persons who are defenseless. Unborn children cannot protect itself from the harm designed by his or her own very own mother. The affidavit is replete with examples showing the government's insistence or preference towards preserving the fetus rather than aborting it. The affidavit mentions the 2009 case of Nicholas Cake, a child born in Colorado with anencephaly, a birth defect where a baby is born without parts of brain and skull, who survived for 3 years to argue that his birth gave strength and joy to his family despite knowing that he would have a short life. These selective case studies ignore the trauma that a family might experience on losing a child or watching him or her struggle given his given his physical condition. However, most importantly, such pro-life approach takes the decision out of the mother's hands and strikes at her autonomy. In my opinion, the courts and the legislature should move towards giving primacy to the mother's autonomy and respect her decision to carry out or not to carry out the abortion. It should also holistically look at the abortion cases before arriving at such decisions. For instance, the Calcutta High Court in Re Superna ignored the aspect of the mother's financial well-being and the capability of raising the child. One can only wonder what real life or quality of life the unborn shall have if her or his birth was forced on the mother. In time like these, judgments like the one by Telangana High Court offer hope for a better future.
Wait.
Swapnil Tripathi.
Good. Very well read.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
What you saw is about the abortion law. See, the law says that in only few cases you can go for abortion. After 20 weeks, it is very difficult. Some High Court has allowed after 24 weeks also. Some have allowed after 26 weeks also. But Telangana High Court said that, and some High Courts have refused because the fetus has taken the birth. That is the law is bound to protect the unborn child in the mother's womb. Now here, Telangana High Court said, very rightly, the Swapnil Tripathi, that lawyer, has said that, I'll just point out this para. What this child who is born without the mother's wish, or his birth was forced on the mother, if her or his birth was forced on the mother, what quality of life he or she will have? So it is a progressive approach by the Telangana High Court that if the mother do not want to give birth and we force by law, the child will not have a good quality life because she may not like the child born this way. Secondly, there are two conflicts here. Under Article 21, the Constitution gives a right to life and liberty to everybody. Now here two people are there. There is a mother who is pregnant and another who is unborn child. Telangana High Court said somebody who is actually a lady who is going to reproduce the child, who is going to deliver the child, her rights are little more important. It is not equate. They are not equating, but her rights are also has to be taken care because it is her body from where she is going to give the birth. So even her rights are to be protected. If she is not really willing to give the birth, why should somebody force her to give the birth? So this judgment is very important. And as a woman or also otherwise also, you should know what is this law on the abortion in our country. Okay, next we move to the another very important subject, that is Stridhan. Stridhan is actually not defined anywhere, but it is mentioned in mainly in three laws, that is in Domestic Violence Act, also under Indian Penal Code under 406 IPC. You will find it is not there, but whenever there is a misappropriation of property of a woman, 406 of IPC also applies. And thirdly, also in the Hindu Marriage Act. See, whenever you read a Hindu law, you will find a reference of the Stridhan. Now, the meaning of Stridhan is anything which belongs to women. Now, women, it is not really true that any lady who is not married will not have a Stridhan. Married or unmarried, Stridhan will be her property. Now, Stridhan can be earned two way. That is, I am working, I am earning something. It is, or my self-acquired property came to me. Any property which comes to me is my property. And second aspect is, if I'm married or I go for some functions, it may be Raksha Bandhan, it may be any puja, and if I've gifted something, it is my Stridhan. See, so Stridhan means anything which is gifted to me, whether I'm married or unmarried. It may be my brother, given by my brother, my in-laws, my friends, and it may be as simple as pen, or it may be a book. It need not be jewelry always. It may be a furniture, it may be tape record, TV, washing machine. Everything is covered in Stridhan. So Stridhan is very a vast subject, and as a woman we should know what is our Stridhan. So I see many women, they are educated, and when they come to me to file the case, they say that मैं पूरा गहना तो उधर छोड़ के आ गई सास के पास. Or when they come to me, it is after 3-4 years. So it is very difficult for me to prove in the court that in last 3-4 years she has never asked their Stridhan. So you should always demand your Stridhan when you leave the matrimonial home, or even if you are staying with the husband, your or the in-laws. They are just a trustee of your Stridhan. They are not the owner of your Stridhan. And whenever a woman demands her Stridhan, it is her right, her brother or her father or mother, whoever, they have to give her Stridhan to her on demand. It may be because of her marriage, or she wants to keep it to herself. So the mother-in-law, father-in-law, or husband cannot forcefully keep the Stridhan of the wife or any, even of their own daughter. So Stridhan is her own property which she is entitled to under Hindu law. Now one question I would like to answer here. Does the Muslim woman also have a right for Stridhan? Unfortunately, there is no Stridhan because Stridhan is a subject which is actually included in the Hindu law, but not in the, because in Manusmriti, all the schools of the Hindu laws, you will find the Mitakshara also school, you will find that there is a Hindu Marriage Act, there is a Stridhan mention. But if you go to Muslim law, you will find the meher or dawar or iddat period after there is some maintenance is granted. So whenever a marriage happens under Muslim law, and it is also a contract. It is not a religious ceremony, but it is a contract. She is asked whether she really wants to continue. Because आपने देखा होगा मुस्लिम मैरिजेस में आपको विवाह का आपको निकाह कबूल है ऐसे पूछा जाता है. So it is a kind of a contract there. It is not a religious ceremony that way, though it happens with the in front of the Kaji. But whatever little knowledge I have, it is not a no, not a religious ceremony actually, but it is, she is actually asked through the Kaji. Kaji is like a wakil for them, who is a witness to them. There may be other witnesses also. Whether आपको शादी निकाह कबूल है कि नहीं. Now in this उस समय उनका एक मेहर या एक मेहर एक अमाउंट फिक्स किया जाता है या डॉर फिक्स किया जाता है कि इतना अमाउंट आपको दिया जाएगा. वो उसी समय मांग सकती है और वो बाद में भी मांग सकती है. It may be 1,000 rupees or it may be lakhs of rupees, but we do not know how much it is. It may differ. There is no such law. So in Muslim law, there is no Stridhan. But I would like to tell here that if there is some property which is her own property, it is her Stridhan. And secondly, you can also go through the Hindu Marriage Act, which defines the Stridhan. Also under Domestic Violence Act, it is women's property, Stridhan also it says. And another act is Indian Penal Code. Under Indian Penal Code IPC section 406, misappropriation of property wrongly. Even a Muslim woman can file a complaint. It may not, the word may not be Sridhan, but my ornaments are taken away by my husband. So 406 will be applicable in those kind of matters also, whether the religion is Muslim or something else. So now Parsi women are also there. Also there are Christian women who are not protected by way of Stridhan. But if you read the 406 IPC, it is about the misappropriation of the property by somebody else. So even if the woman is Muslim or Christian or for that matter Parsi, she can say the ornaments are mine and my husband has taken away. Suppose it is a necklace. She can always say it is my necklace. It was gifted to me. And the gifted article can never be taken away back. Hindu law says so, but it can be read that way that necklace, of course, necklace or Mangalsutra is worn by the woman. So naturally, you can argue in the court it is her Stridhan or it is her property. If for Muslim woman, you will not be able to use the word Stridhan. This is where we will stop here. If anybody have a question, we will go through. We have only 8 minutes left now. I could have gone for vocabulary, but tomorrow we will go through that. Reading by Bhairavi was quite long today, but it was a good subject. You people can unmute yourself one by one. You can write in the chat. Anybody wants to speak or anybody wants me to take some other subjects? You people can suggest.
Ma'am, I have one doubt.
Yes, who is speaking?
Dhwani.
Ma'am,
actually my net
camera
is
on.
not stable.
Dhwani, where is your camera?
Yes.
Camera on rakhi.
Ma'am, my net is very unstable due to the heavy rains.
Okay, tell me.
Ma'am, the only thing I wanted to ask was if a woman is unmarried and whatever money or ornaments she is buying for herself, that will also come under.
That is also
Stridhan,
her
right?
property, right?
So if somebody from the family itself takes that gold or ornaments, do you go under?
She can go and file a complaint under 406 IPC.
Okay, thank you.
Kshitija Jadhav is asking what will topic for tomorrow. I'll decide tonight. there. Or you people can also suggest. And please give your names for judgment reading to Vandana. And I want 2-3 people stand by who can read. If at the last minute there is some glitch, technical glitch, and somebody is unable to read. Shivani is asking, the good evening, ma'am. The concept is clear, but I want to know what we are supposed to do in this internship apart from learning concept. Internship, if you, Shivani, if you want to help me, you can go for research. My number is with Vandana. I will also mention my number here. You can help me by going to by doing the research work. Somebody is saying Kishan Yadav, what is the punishment of criminal breach of trust? See, whenever you are misappropriating a property, you are criminally, you are breaching the trust of that woman or anybody person. So it's a woman can also file for treason. Because if you a property is entrusted to you, to a husband, and he is not giving to his wife, then it is a criminal breach of trust. I hope, Kishan, it is clear to you now.
Ma'am, my question is, woman can demand treason to his husband?
Woman can demand
Treason from his husband?
from her husband. Yes, yes, she has to. In fact, husband can't keep. He is just a trustee.
Her trustee.
Shall we end for today? Or anybody has any questions?
Ma'am, one question more. Can I talk in Hindi?
Yes, yes, आप बोल सकते हो.
मैम, डाइवर्स पिटिशन दाखिल करने के लिए जो अपन डाइवर्स पिटिशन ये कर दें, तो उसमें 1 ईयर म्यूचुअल कंसेंट में जो 13 भी है, तो उसमें 1 ईयर सेपरेशन जरूरी है. तो वो म्यूचुअल कंसेंट अगर है और 1 ईयर से अलग रहते थे और कॉज ऑफ एक्शन अभी 3 महीने पहले हुई है, तो अपन दाखिल कर सकते क्या?
नहीं कर सकते हैं, क्योंकि उसे वो जो 13 भी कहता है कि उनका फिजिकल सेपरेशन चाहिए 1 ईयर के लिए.
फिजिकल सेपरेशन है ना 1 ईयर का.
1 ईयर का है, और मैरिज का को भी 1 साल हो गया है. मैं आपको एग्जांपल दे देती हूँ. उनकी शादी समझे अक्टूबर 2020 में हुई है, और अक्टूबर 2021 को उनको 1 साल हो रहा है, और उनका कॉज जून से अलग रह रहे, तो जून से ही होगा. 1 साल का डिफरेंस चाहिए.
ओके, यस मैम, थैंक यू.
मैम, आई हैव अ क्वेश्चन.
जी पूछिए. जो लोग क्वेश्चन पूछ रहे वो वीडियो ऑन रखे. क्लाइंट से ऐसे बात करेंगे क्या आप लोग?
मैम, अभी ड्यू टू हेवी रेन्स देयर इज अ लॉट ऑफ नेटवर्क इश्यूज, दैट
बहुत
इज
अच्छा
व्हाई.
रीजन, एक्चुअली बहुत अच्छा रीजन होता है कैमरा नहीं ऑन करने का. बोलो.
No, ma'am, it is genuine.
हाँ
It is
जी,
genuinely the
बोलिए,
reason.
चलिए बोलिए.
Ma'am, would you give us some tips regarding drafting also? Because
ड्राफ्टिंग के लिए बुक निकाल रही हूँ मैं, थोड़ा मुझे समय दीजिए. एंड वन मोर थिंग आई वुड लाइक टू टेल ऑल ऑफ यू कि अगर आपको ड्राफ्टिंग अच्छा करना है तो बेस्ट थिंग कि आप एक जजमेंट रोज पढ़ लो. अच्छा वकील बनना है तो एक दिन सिविल का, एक दिन क्रिमिनल का, एक 1 डे मैट्रिमोनियल, एवरी डे.
okay, ma'am.
That is the easiest thing you can do, and your drafting will improve. Trust me. Just read every judgment. Do one exercise, all of you here. One judgment each day, and don't have your dinner till you complete one judgment.
Okay, ma'am, sure. Thank you.
Hello.
What is the period of gift deed? How to cancel? How many days?
Gift deed कभी cancel नहीं होता है. Gift deed cannot be cancelled.
regarding immovable property?
गिफ्ट डीड कभी भी कैंसिल नहीं होता है. देयर इज ओनली वन क्लॉज फॉर दैट. सीनियर सिटीजन का जो एक्ट है उसमें एक क्लॉज है. उसके अलावा लॉ में गिफ्ट डीड कैंसिल नहीं होता है.
Okay. If that is made by only karta of the family and other
गिफ्ट डीड कैंसिल नहीं होता है. गिफ्ट डीड वंस रजिस्टर्ड इट कैन नॉट बी कैंसिल. गिफ्ट का मतलब क्या होता है? आपने किसी को दान दे दिया,
yeah.
भेंट स्वरूप दे दिया, तो कभी दिया हुआ दान वापस नहीं मांगते. हमारा देश तो कर्ण का देश है.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
जी जी.
Good evening, ma'am. Myself Adarsh Verma.
Yes, sir.
Recently passed LLB from this Taloja Law College.
Okay.
So I want to ask from where I can get cases to study, as you discussed about.
indiankanun.com, गूगल indiankanun.com जाइए आप. सुशीला अग्रवाल
Okay.
का आप ग्रुप में हो ना? सुशीला
Yes,
अग्रवाल
yes.
का जो केस है वो वहां से पढ़ना शुरू कर दीजिए. लेट मी नो हाउ मेनी पीपल. मैं कल चैट बॉक्स में देखना चाहूंगी हाउ मेनी पीपल हैव read सुशीला अग्रवाल केस. Even if I get 5 people, my efforts are successful.
Okay,
Hello,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Thank you.
This is Shyam.